Well, I guess we'll start then. I just started the recording, so for those there's a significant amount of people that couldn't make the call today, so I'm going to be recording it and sharing it out with all those that registered and all those on the Connected Home Council. And I'm trying to allow everyone to be able to unmute themselves, so you can speak if you have any questions throughout the presentation. There's also a chat box that you could write any comments, feedbacks, questions there, and also a Q&A box as well. This includes for the presenter and the keynote, and also for the rest of the webinar presentation. And our chair, Eric Harper, doesn't look like he could make the call today, so I'm going to be sort of chairing the first part, and then and Byron B. Miller from Semtech will be taking the lead for the last little bit, or the majority of the presentation. With that, I'll kick it off, and I'll go over the agenda. We have about 85 people registered, so I'm going to forego the roll call at this point. And we're starting off with the special keynote webinar presentation on the from the Connectivity Standards Alliance, and as they unveil Matter, which is formerly the CHIP project, from Michelle from the Connectivity Standards Alliance. So giving that a short 30-minute presentation. Some Q&A is built in there as well. And then we'll go and follow up with the CHC meeting. So everyone's welcome to attend this meeting as well. We'll go over some introductions and about the CHC, some administrative, improving the past minutes, an update on some of the research projects, and then also Ken Wax will give an update on some of the white paper subcommittee updates, and then some new business, and finally an adjournment. And I know that because I think Charles is on the line here, and I think there's one agenda item we want to cover fairly soon, just before the webinar presentation. Actually, one of the key items from the CHC meeting, he has to leave a little bit early, but maybe if Charles, you could give a brief introduction of the current CHC research project for 2021, and I can go to that slide now if you want.
Sure. Thank you, Greg. Yeah, if you could go to that slide. I was going to talk briefly about our 2021 research project for the Connected Home Council. So just some background how we selected this topic. We got input from all of our CABA members. We had 3 finalized topics that we sent to the board, and the board selected the connected home and AI. So very excited about this topic. Once we selected the topic, we also sent out a request for proposal to the different CABA member research firms. And at the end of the day, we selected Harbor Research to conduct this project. So if this topic interests you, consider being a funder. Only the funders receive the full research. And you can see right now, thank you very much to the funders that have already signed on: Automated Logic, Carrier, Residio, Ream, and Snap AV. So if this sounds interesting to you, there are 3 levels of funding. We estimate $70,000 worth of research, but there are 3 levels that you can have for either $5,000, $10,000, or $15,000. The lowest level, $5,000, you get the full research as well as the final webinar. For $10,000, in addition to that, you also get to be on the steering committee during the project, and you also get a special webinar specifically for your organization. And optionally, you can also have a think tank webinar hosted by Harbor Research once the project is completed. And then finally, at $15K, in addition to all the benefits mentioned before, you also get to have a case study on your organization in the project that will be incorporated into the executive summary. So very excited about this topic. If this research interests you, please contact Greg and he will give you some more details. But that's what I had. Thank you very much, Greg.
All right. Thanks, Charles. So yeah, just if anyone's interested, please reach out to myself, walker@caba.org, or anyone else at CABA. It's really a great opportunity to get a large-scale research project for a relatively inexpensive fee. So $5,000 or $10,000 can get you around $70,000 worth of research in this connected home space on AI. And if you want to know more information, we can always set up a call with the research firm Harbor Research, and we can go over a little bit more detail of what's included in the project and go from there. But yeah, thanks a lot, Charles.
Sure, you're welcome.
Yeah. So with that, well, I think that the next item is really our webinar, our keynote presentation from Michelle from the Connectivity Standards Alliance. On the Connectivity Standards Alliance unveils the Matter, formerly known as CHIP, for a 30-minute presentation. And you can also put in your questions there in the chat box or in the Q&A box as well. So Matter is really the foundation for connected things. It's an industry unifying standard that with the promise of reliability and secure connectivity. It's the seal of approval that devices will work seamlessly together today and tomorrow. Matter is creating connections between more objects and simplifying the development for manufacturers, increasing compatibilities for consumers. And this collaborative breakthrough is built on proven technologies and is guided by the Connectivity Standards Alliance, which is formerly the Zigbee Alliance that most of you are aware of, whose members come together from across the industry to transform the future of connectivity. And Michelle serves as the Alliance's head of marketing, and she helps promote the Alliance's mission, standards, and solutions to drive growth and success for IoT and to benefit its members, customers, and the marketplace at large. As an executive in telecom, energy, and professional services industries, she has built and led teams across marketing, strategy, brands, consumer experience, and go-to-market. Having worked in the industry in consulting for over 25 years, she brings a wealth of experience, perspective, and passion across the Alliance's mission to build the foundation for the future of IoT. She has a BA from the Miami University, an MBA in Strategic and Organizational Behavior from the University of Chicago, and is currently a visiting scholar at CDAIT, the IoT Research Center at Georgia Institute of Technology. So with that, I'll pass it off to Michelle to give her presentation.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Greg. And thank you to CABA and to the CHC for inviting us to speak today. Always a little embarrassed to hear my bio, but thank you for introducing me. Briefly, I have been with the Alliance proper since January, but was really attracted to work with the Alliance and its members and now my new colleagues because of that passion that Greg mentioned and an interest in really helping to transform and continue to grow successfully, not just for businesses, but also for customers and consumers, the world of IoT. So today, we'll talk a little bit about kind of our view of the Internet of Things and some of the problems we're trying to solve and address as an organization. Super quick, history and commentary on the Alliance itself. And then we're going to pivot right to Matter so that we can talk a little bit about both its origin, what it's intended to achieve, and where we are today. So with that, if you could press forward for me, thank you. Just a kind of a philosophy piece here. I mean, today, I think we all know that there are actually more connected devices than people in this world. And knowing CABA really focuses on research, I will cite a research statistic that the IDC says that we'll see over 41 billion IoT devices connected by 2025. And IoT really has become that key enabler for new ways of working, especially in this COVID world. And what's great about that and about so many companies looking at IoT as solutions to connectivity challenges and new ways of working is that it brings opportunity to those companies who are designing and building and installing and creating those products and solutions. But for that growth to really materialize, for these projections to become reality, and to do this in a way that isn't just good business for enterprises, but also good value for consumers and the users of IoT, there really are fundamental challenges. The IoT, again, from our perspective, has grown up through these enclaves of innovation. They kickstarted, the world of connectivity and connected devices. But as those spaces have matured, those enclaves have kind of become islands, and it's islands of technology and fragmentation, and frankly, creates a great deal of complexity. And for those of us who are in the industry trying to create products and solutions for the IoT, this kind of complexity could mean reduced opportunity and having to make tough choices about where to invest your R&D dollars and what types of products and what types of technologies to support. Or it could just mean higher costs because you do want to serve more markets. And that actually turns into challenges for consumers. So for consumers and users, it can mean higher costs, it can mean potentially less choice, and frankly, just more confusion. So if we go to the next slide, I think another aspect that is complicating matters is the challenges of trust and security in the IoT. There have been a few kind of interesting studies, within the last year or so from organizations like .everyone or from Friends of the Alliance like Consumers International that have highlighted some interesting facts about tech and about the Internet of Things. It's really unfortunate that only 19% of people believe, according to this Digital Attitudes report, that tech companies are designing products and services with consumers' best interests in mind. And specifically in the world of IoT, Consumers International discovered that over 60% of people think connected devices are kind of creepy. And I think any of us who've been on conference calls and inadvertently use the A word or the S word activate those devices all around us. And about half of people don't trust their devices to handle their information respectfully. So while there's been a lot of progress in this area over the years, both in standards and in areas of security, privacy, and trust, the landscape is still pretty confusing and fragmented, especially for companies who want to develop. And again, I think our perspective here is that for consumers who seek greater connectivity and accessibility and security, and where we want to create equity for the connected world, the world of IoT is still kind of knotted up. So from the Connectivity Standards Alliance perspective, we really think the IoT is at a tipping point. If the silos and the walled gardens that we've seen in the past prevail in the short term, we really think that IoT will remain the purview of the techno-savvy, and benefits will not accrue to the masses, but to the few. And that we also believe that by creating an environment where even the most fierce competitors can work together, we can actually unknot the challenges of IoT and deliver greater benefits to everyone. So our focus is speeding the innovation and development around IoT, lowering barriers to entry and barriers to purchase, to increase adoption, to drive market growth and specifically growth for those companies who do sit down at the table to collaborate and work together. And we know we can and should be also increasing value to customers, consumers, and users who really need to be at the heart of all that we do as a standards development organization. And we know this can be done. The organization itself has been around for nearly 20 years now, and from our origins with 16 companies who were forming the Zigbee Alliance way back in 2002, 2003, to today with over 350 member companies across 37 countries, we really do want to create that foundation and chart the future of the IoT, focusing on that global open standards mantra and ensuring that more devices can securely connect. If we wanted to put our mission into a handful of unifying statements, it's to develop global and unifying standards to guide the IoT forward, to simplify and harmonize that standards complexity, to create an environment that would foster unprecedented collaboration, again, between competitors within and across the value chain and even across geographies to make this a better, more connected world. So that's a little bit of philosophy from our perspective and kind of what we believe in. And I think our activity as part of the Alliance, when we look at the timeline on the next slide, kind of proves out where we have been and that we've been working to live to that philosophy over time. We started in 2002, 2003 with a Zigbee full stack solution over 802.15.4, and we have been continually evolving and expanding those capabilities over the years. Whether it's from the expansion and the specialty delivery of capabilities for smart energy, looking at batteryless and low power solutions using green power, or focusing on areas with industrial IoT and smart city with Jupyter Mesh, we have continually invested in, with our members' guidance and leadership, to expand and continue to penetrate the IoT marketplace with consistent technology. What we've also done in those last few years, as we look now in the more recent past, is look at how we might also start to standardize at the data level. And so in 2018, 2019, we also announced .dot, which is a common language and a common data model for the standards underneath the Alliance umbrella. And you would see .dot and the cluster library as a foundational tool or an enabling standard that helps make all of our current standards today hum and have a level of commonality to drive long-term interoperability. And we'll also see that, and you will see that as we look forward into Matter and that evolution from Project Connected Home over IP to the full-fledged standard with Matter, which also would be underpinned with .dot as a data model. So fast forwarding to today, I know that we will focus on Matter, but I would be remiss if I didn't also say that we are continuing to invest and evolve in Zigbee. There are new features that are in play for Zigbee Pro. I think you can look perhaps, I think early next week, there'll be a blog coming out about some additional new capabilities there. So I would encourage you all, if you're interested in that, to keep your eyes open and follow us on social media, and you'll be able to get some of the latest for that as well. But let's pivot to Matter and talk a little bit about Matter and our ambitions and where we are today. By the way, I actually I'm not monitoring the chat. So Greg, if you feel there's something that is timely for me to answer right away, please interject. Otherwise, I can go through some of the questions at the end.
Yeah, sounds good. Everyone can just put in the questions in the Q&A box, or alternatively, at the very end, you can raise your hand and then just state your question verbally.
Awesome. Thank you. So from a Matter perspective, I think, we do have quite an ambitious vision, and as Greg said, this was known as Project Connected Home over IP until mid-May of this year, where we did rebrand both the Alliance at that time from the Zigbee Alliance to the Connectivity Standards Alliance and Project CHIP to Matter. And truly the vision here with Matter is to start to address some of those biggest challenges facing the IoT today. So looking at how we can reconnect those disconnected platforms and how we can smooth out those development paths for manufacturers and developers and eliminate some of those disparate development environments. Knocking down the walled gardens so that we start to eliminate issues of choice for consumers and connect what are today those platform islands, which really kind of challenge us in terms of overall market growth. The focus when the project originated was to bring together the largest ecosystem players with the power of our IoT member community to tackle this problem head on. The focus is to have an IP-based standard that is obviously firstly based on, again, IP in the language of the internet, to accelerate the delivery of this standard by leveraging the contributions from key ecosystem providers and from the portfolio of the Alliance, and by taking a kind of a different approach to standards development, as opposed to just specs and the development of, I'll call it on paper standards. We really did focus on and continue to focus on taking an implementation first approach. with the idea that we would be able to accelerate time to market for the standard itself, as well as create a portfolio of assets at the end of the standards development process that would be truly useful for developers and speed their ability to bring compliant devices to market. So a little bit more on kind of where we are today and kind of how we've progressed. It's been, I want to say, maybe 18, 19 months since the origin of the project. And at that time, we started out with an announcement that was kind of a really high-level agreement, if you all remember it, between a few companies, contributions from a handful of existing ecosystem providers, and then also from the Alliance, and this really ambitious charter. If we fast forward to where we are today, we have 3 core subgroups. So our marketing and product subgroup, our technology subgroup, and our certification subgroup. And underneath that, over 30 subcommittees who are focusing on very precise areas of the specification, certification, and SDK development. Anything from making sure that we are properly aligned with, say, the thread group from a physical layer perspective, to developing the requirements and use cases that would be necessary for commercial building or for the next set of devices that we look to have as part of the Matter standard. So what that means is we have over 1,700 people who are individually involved and a part of the Matter working group. And I am proud to say we are actually nearing 200 member organizations. So we are just shy of that. So over 190 member companies who are now participating in this process as well. Where are we today? Sorry, yeah, so where are we today? So we obviously have a clear view of the first wave of devices. There's a slide on that a little bit later so that we could talk through that a little bit. We have test events in process. We've actually gone through 3 waves of test events already. We are about to begin our 4th wave of test event. Through those processes, what we've been really focusing on is ensuring that we have the right set of test tools, test scripting. We've been maturing the infrastructure around the certification process so that we have proper test harnesses. The infrastructure there, I'll talk a little bit more about, but we're building our test harness infrastructure to create a more platform agnostic and easy to use testing environment. We've again taken this code first approach, so we have a very robust GitHub developer environment. We can talk a little bit about kind of the stats there. I think we have an ever number growing of forks in our GitHub repository. So we are seeing very active work from the developer community to dig in and work with the code and make suggestions and pull requests. And we are seeing that code repository continue to evolve and evolve very quickly. The pace of GitHub commits has been increasing. We started out the year at about 40,000 a week in terms of commits, and now we've increased that rather dramatically. So we're at about 60 to 65,000 commits starting in June. So there's been a lot of investment and a lot of continued changes to evolve and mature our SDK, and that is one of the big focus areas for the group right now. We do have and did announce in May the feature complete base specification. So that has been ratified by the members. And again, I think the big focus right now is enriching and maturing the SDK itself so that we have a very robust, highly capable, usable, and high quality SDK for our members and the adopters of Matter once the specification is released. We are still driving hard to move devices through these testing events and certification processes. I think that we are still looking to see those first things perhaps at the end of 2021, but I think I would really look to CES as well, because it's just around the, believe it or not, just around the corner for those of you who are in marketing. And I would expect to hear a lot more from our members as you look to the end of the year and early next year in terms of device availability. So I think Greg did a great job of delivering the core messages around Matter. And we do believe that it can be quite the unifying technology as an application layer. And we are focused on delivering on the brand promise of devices that work seamlessly together and simplifying the development process and increasing choice and compatibility for consumers. I think if we go to the next slide, we just kind of for those of you who are brand aficionados, the Matter mark is something that we are actually very proud of, and we think is simple, memorable, and can be standout, and we believe will be a standout part of the Internet of Things on an ongoing basis. And I think as Greg mentioned in the intro, from a value proposition perspective, we are highly focused on simplicity, easy to purchase, easy to set up, and easy to create your smart home environment. We're focused on interoperability, where we can get multiple brands to work together. Focused on reliability, so where you can expect this IP-based standard that's developed and certified within a community, and you can count on a level of consistency and responsiveness for local connectivity. And finally, security. Definitely not last nor least, but security is foundational to the design and robust for consumers and streamlined and usable for developers. So here we will talk briefly about kind of the overall. You'll see the overall stack architecture visualized simply on the right, with Matter as an application layer that is running over IP-based transport and protocol. Right now, as we launch and develop this first release of the Matter standard, it will be suited to run over a number of physical layers. So we'll be running over Wi-Fi, over Thread, and also Ethernet. There is, from a member perspective, interest in continuing to expand the physical layers over which Matter will operate, and that will be roadmap items driven by our members in the working group to expand over time. We also, again, I mentioned that we are focused on local connectivity. There is, again, just based on the overall architecture of Matter itself, the ability to make that extensible to the cloud. But the first release, first and foremost, was to drive that local connectivity and proper interoperability across devices and various ecosystems. And that will be the focus of the first release. I'll talk just a little bit about security. Obviously, every message is protected. We have secure over-the-air updates. And then every device that is joining into a Matter ecosystem and a Matter network is authenticated. And we do use and have in the spec using a distributed ledger for device attestation and device provenance. I mentioned earlier the common data model, which we think is critical, both as we look at Matter and Matter extensibility over time, but also as we look at bridging and Matter interoperability with other technologies. So if we think about Matter today and Zigbee today, and the fact that those technologies will in fact coexist, and may in fact even coexist with other technologies, since it will take a village in many ways to drive the IoT across a wide variety of use cases. We think having that common data model is critical to forwarding interoperability and having that common language over time. I am not an engineer, but I know that our developer community and our members are very focused on how we can ensure that Matter as a standard and as a reference design will be compatible with low overhead compute, and make sure that there is that the Matter spec itself is suitable for a wide variety of device types. And ensuring that we can deliver Matter experiences in the lowest cost package possible. So what can people expect, across the stakeholders and the beneficiaries of Matter? I think from a consumer perspective, it really is about getting the products that best fit your needs. With Matter, you don't need to worry about matching up works with. So I have ecosystem A in my home, so I must buy products that are compatible with that ecosystem. Now you can look for the Matter mark, and irrespective of whether or not that product has a works with badge for an ecosystem, as long as your ecosystem is Matter and your devices Matter, those things will work together. And we think that will really open up the aperture for device choice and make it much more simple to purchase. We also think there will be improvement in consistency and ease of setup experience. The standard and specification has kind of a flexible but standards-based approach for setup, where you can use either a QR code or an actual code to move through a setup experience and allow for consistency, irrespective of whether or not the device is a very simple device, where you could scan a QR code and be one and done in setup, or perhaps it's a more complex device where through that QR code and the use of components of distributed ledger, we can actually guide the customer more easily through the setup experience. So the Matter spec is designed to avail that flexible platform to our adopters and member companies so that they can use those tools and create more consistency, which we think will help with adoption for consumers, so they know when they buy a Matter device what they should expect. Another key attribute from consumer perspective is multi-admin. And again, this is back to the notion that you would like devices to work across multiple ecosystems and even securely simultaneously across ecosystems. So you can set up different preferences in terms of access to devices in different ecosystems or whole home experiences in a way that you had not been able to before. I'll also mention that we do have a few kind of cool videos that if you've not seen them, kind of explain some of the features, multi-admin, and some of the other aspects that we'll describe on the page. And I'll make sure Greg has those links as well for this group. From a developer perspective, we truly believe that this is an opportunity for developers to develop once, deploy everywhere. No longer will you need to develop specifically for ecosystem A and ecosystem B and ecosystem C in a discrete way with the largest ecosystem players a part of the Matter specification development process, and that level of interoperability of devices across ecosystems. It should smooth and speed the developer experience for device manufacturers. I've talked about security, but I also want to talk about community. I think that one of the unique aspects of the Alliance itself and the work around Matter, inclusive of our work around security, is the fact that you get the benefit of the community itself. It is a force multiplier in terms of creating in terms of creating specification, in terms of having those checks and balances, in terms of having the robustness of design that an individual company may seek. So I think the community itself is a big benefit for developers. From a retail perspective, we hope that Matter will help to simplify the purchasing experience, and also ease what's happening in the retail marketplace. So how allocating shelf space to different ecosystem works with products hopefully will start to become a thing of the past. And also because of that interoperability and that cross-ecosystem compatibility, it should help minimize returns and reduce costs for retailers. And last but not least, we are very strongly focused on continuing to evolve Matter for the commercial and building space. I think at a basic level, it's future-proofing ecosystem compatibility. So as you build with Matter, your tenants' devices will be able to connect and communicate regardless of the underlying ecosystem. So our work in the commercial space is still advancing and maturing, but this is a really important area for us as well. Okay, target device types. I mentioned a little bit about that early. We have a huge variety of device types that will be out with the first release of the spec. Our members will drive additional device types over time based on what they see as market demand from their customers and consumers. I'll make a point very quickly that one of the originating device types in the first release of the spec will be a bridge device type. Matter is, through the specification process, ensuring that there are some parts of the standard that would enable bridging and availing that information to other standards, excuse me, and other technologies to be able to build bridges to Matter itself. And I think, you know, I have only one more slide, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe the next slide. We are just getting started. There's still so much work left to do in the world of Matter and at the Alliance itself. I mentioned that we continue to evolve the efforts around Matter certification and building out that certification program. What I can tell you is that as we look to launch, adopters of the Matter standard will be able to take advantage of all of our certification programs, whether it's a certification for a device itself, platform certification, certification by similarity, and even our certification transfer program, which enables white labelers, ODMs and OEMs to create certified products more easily. I mentioned next wave of device specifications, which many of our members are already working on. I've already mentioned Zigbee enhancements. There are even more things afoot at the Alliance in terms of new working groups that will be coming up soon. And we continue to work to evolve our presence on the global stage and have become more involved with the World Economic Forum and their Council on the Connected World, again, to forward our mission. And we hope all of our mission of connecting more people and more devices and more places. So, so here ends the kind of formal part of the presentation, and I'm happy to take questions. I also have on the line with me, and he can unmute and talk as well, Mr. Chris Lepre. Chris is our head of technology at the Alliance and has joined to help with Q&A and also to make sure I stay in line. Wink, wink. So let's take a few questions.
Thanks a lot, Michelle. I think it was a great presentation, and I think it definitely addresses some of the key issues around the connected home sector, with interoperability or lack thereof being one of the key barriers towards adoption of the new connected home technologies. And just let everyone know that the slides will be available on the CHC webpage, on our webpage, and also the recording as well. And I'll include additional information, videos, links, things like that, and maybe even contact information in the meeting minutes. So if you have any questions, you can either raise your hand and I can call on you, or there's a couple questions that came in the chat box and also in the Q&A.
Yes.
I think I'll start with maybe Charles, before you go here. I know you have to leave. If you wanted to maybe verbally state your question there about the solar industry and how it applies to Matter, or how Matter would potentially apply to the solar industry. Charles? Sure.
No, I thought it was a great presentation. Thank you very much. One thing that occurred to me as you look at the IoT applications, some experience in the solar industry, particularly with if you have like hundreds or thousands of solar panels in a farm, there's an issue with getting data, mapping out these panels, making sure it's secure, making the setup very easy for people in the field. I just wondered if that had occurred to you as far as an application for Matter.
Chris, do you want to take that question?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Actually, so that's a slightly different question than I thought it was at first. So and I would put that question then to our commercial group that Michelle mentioned. For a solar farm with thousands of panels, I think Matter makes a lot of sense. But that would probably require a sort of a commercial profile, let's say, to handle that. Probably more similar to a commercial building with thousands and thousands of sensors than perhaps a home building. But one thing that we have talked about on the home side of things is a smart home that has maybe some solar panels on the roof, has maybe a battery wall or other sort of storage, local storage, and then managing energy, and sort of as the cost of energy fluctuates and the amount of energy that I can draw from my solar panels, the current content of the batteries that I have, how do I sort of adjust my usage throughout the day? And that sort of quote unquote energy management system has been definitely considered, and many of those components are being worked on as part of Matter. But it would be great to sort of start the use case analysis out for that to fully vet it out. And again, for the home space, I think Matter definitely makes sense for that. Does that?
Great, thank you.
Yeah, great.
And next, I think we have I think David Katz has a question. If you could just state your name and organization, and then your question, just to give a little context, David.
Okay,
if not, I can read it. Yeah.
So I'm David Katz, Sustainable Environmental Solutions, Sustainable Resources Management. I initially probably misinterpreted what Matter was. I thought it was, just Zigbee. And so my question is, these different technologies have different benefits in terms of how much power they use, how far they can travel. So is Matter going to be able to work on these? I think one of the slides said it will.
Uh-huh.
And is Matter sort of comparable in the commercial space to Project Haystack? It's an ontology, or is it a standard? Maybe I misinterpreted. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I can start with the answer and then ask Chris to elaborate. I mean, I think yes, and I'm glad we kind of answered your question through the presentation. Matter is an application, and its intent is indeed to run over various physical layers. So to your point, if there is different range or power requirements, if we look at other other technologies, be it and randomly stated technologies, no, don't read anything into it, whether it's a 5G or a LoRa or a low power solution. The intent would be that Matter could, as a common application layer and a common IP-based standard, be running over those different needs to your point, to support those different use cases in different environments. I'd ask Chris. I'm not familiar with the commercial standard you mentioned, so.
Yeah, and I just clarify one thing about Zigbee. So Zigbee is not an IP-bearing protocol, as you probably all know, and Thread is based on the same underlying 15.4, which is IP-bearing. So that it makes a lot of sense to just directly run over Thread as opposed to sort of putting some kind of interoperability layer on top of Zigbee. We do have plans to do bridging to support existing Zigbee devices. And that's where Zigbee would come into play in terms of Matter. In terms of Project Haystack, the commercial group that we've mentioned a couple times now has talked about Project Haystack. The Zigbee cluster library is the quote unquote ontology, or we call it a data model, because it has a slightly different approach that we are using it for. Can bridge to other ontologies. We do have the sort of the one data model project that was born out of a Zigbee event, Zigbee Alliance event called Hive, that's now existing in OCF. That has also started bridging to from Zigbee from the Zigbee cluster library over to things like Haystack and other ontologies. In our smart building space, like I said, in the commercial space, we would come up with some kind of a solution to have a single ontology, single data model at the top of that. And it would be based on the Zigbee cluster library for sure.
Thank you. And I hope your bridging device will allow it to be added to existing, because there are thousands of existing sensors out there already.
Yeah, certainly for Zigbee, it would. So I always, yeah, I mean, some kind of a network today that supports, say, Zigbee and Z-Wave, that could also support Matter. And we have a bridging spec that's defined where the non-Matter devices could be quote unquote exported or made visible to the Matter network. I always call it on the northbound side, but on the IP side of that bridge, to look like a Matter device from some, let's say, display or something happening on the Matter side of the network.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris.
And next we have Renee. I think I have a couple questions there. If not, I can read them out.
On blockchain. Yes.
Yeah, I can speak to it. You had referred to device security and blockchain. Could you elaborate?
I can a bit, and again I will ask Chris to fill in some of those blanks. I think the intention here is that we do use blockchain to kind of capture and for lack of a better word, credentialize that device profile, so that it is so that it's clear what the provenance of the device is, so that there is data available to understand what it is, what the version control is, what security it has in it, etc. And the intention is to use that for device attestation and device provenance. And Chris, again, I welcome you to kind of add any more onto that in terms of how we might be using that additionally for security purposes.
Yeah, I think you basically got it. There's no inherent security involved or use of blockchain involved in the Matter protocol itself. What we're doing is maintaining a ledger that uses blockchain to ensure the verifiability of that sort of distributed across lots of nodes on the internet. And in that distributed ledger, there would be securely maintained all the information, the device attestation information that Michelle referred to. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
I think Mr. Martinez had a question as well about retail. Yes. Elaborating on how Matter will help retailers. So happy to talk a little bit about that. So today, with various ecosystems out there, we had Apple HomeKit or Google or Amazon. There is oftentimes, multiple device choices, right? So a device may or may not be compatible with all of those various ecosystems today. That can take up shelf space at the retailer, having to stock multiple SKUs. It can, it obviously, takes up inventory. It ties up money and cost. And as relates to consumer choice, you do need to rely on that consumer to, one, know what their ecosystem of choice is, and then to pick up and walk out of the store with, or click through on your e-commerce site to the right version of that product to be compatible with whatever they have today. With Matter, and especially with that kind of cross-ecosystem compatibility, it should ease those challenges with respect to retail point of sale or even retail at an e-commerce level, where there isn't as much necessity to stock multiple SKUs and multiple variants of the same product. And then again, kind of with the major ecosystems rallying around support for Matter, it should be easier for consumers to pick up a product irrespective of their home ecosystem, and and trust that they have made the right choice, hopefully then reducing any sort of compatibility issues and returns. And lastly, I think with some of the more consistent and hopefully over time simplified setup processes, again, it's another opportunity to improve the customer experience through a foundational level of standardization, so that consumers hopefully will have a little bit of reduced frustration in the setup process, and again, reducing returns. So we think those are some of the better benefits for retailers. Greg, I think we've covered most all the questions.
I think, are there any last questions? Maybe we have enough time for one more. Okay, well, I guess there's not, but I'd like to thanks again for the great presentation, and just to remind everyone again that the recording will be shared on our website and shared out to all those that registered, and we'll be sharing the slides as well. And I believe that you wanted that in PDF format, so we'll send that out in PDF, along with some other sort of links to videos and other documentation on matter in the meeting minutes. But with that, I'd like to just thanks Michelle again, and then thanks Chris for taking part in the Q&A and the keynote presentation.
Thank you. Really appreciate the invitation to present to the CHC, and happy to talk more, and if anybody is interested. And thank you all for the opportunity.
Thank you. And I'd like to encourage everyone to stay for the rest of the CHC meeting, provide some updates on white papers and some industry news and things like that. So with that, I'll go with this is the meeting agenda. So we just have a welcome to the CHC, some administrative work, so a research update. I think Charles already did that. And then a white paper update and some new business and adjournment. So in the next few minutes that we have here, next half an hour. So I know that Eric couldn't make it, but I think Byron, you was gonna step up and essentially be the acting chair for this meeting, if that's still okay with you, Byron.
That's fine.
All right. So I guess take it away.
Okay. So thank you everybody who's sticking around for the administrative part of the meeting here. You can see our illustrious leader there, Eric, and the vice chairs on the screen. If you're not familiar with the work of the CHC, it's basically a community of interest of people that are interested in connected homes. Obviously, the previous presentation was super relevant to that. Things like consumer electronics and broadband services, and how all these connect together to form a system to make the home smarter. And so we're here to provide webinar information, research update, or research information, white papers, things like that. So the first order of business I'll start with is ask for a motion to approve the past Connected Home Council minutes from the previous February 22nd meeting. Those can be found at the CABA.org website /CHC. So I'd like to make a call for a motion to approve the minutes. Are people able to actually unmute?
Yeah, you can put your hand up, or even just type in the chat box. I think everyone has the opportunity to do that. I think Maurice put up his hand, so I'm assuming that hand is
Yes, I'll pass the motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, thank you. And do we have a second for the motion?
Yeah, David Katz seconds the motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Any opposed? Okay, so hearing none opposed, the motion passes and the minutes are approved from the last meeting. I was a bit late joining the first part of the call. So Greg, you mentioned that Charles had already done the research update. Are we skipping that part?
Yeah, we're skipping that part. Charles just had to leave a hard stop at 1, so we put him at the front just to be safe.
Okay, great. Well, this is going to go quickly then. The next order of business was a white paper subcommittee update from Ken Wax, I believe. Ken, if you want to take it away.
Looks like you're on mute, Ken.
Thank you very much, Byron. I'm Ken Wax, the chair of the CHC White Papers Committee. We have a number of projects underway, and I'd like to review that with you now. First up, we're working on our second paper on power over Ethernet and digital electricity in commercial and multiple dwelling residential buildings. The chair is Louis Swow, Sinclair Digital Holdings, and he will be one of the main authors of the paper. The first of the paper was Power over the Ethernet, the Basics 2020. That's already completed, and it's available at caba.org/whitepapers. Louis is working on an introduction paper outlining the technology and lighting needs of the built environment. And just this morning, he told us that he expects to have a preliminary paper by the middle of August. In fact, he promised it by August 16th. So thank you very much, Louis. Next, we have human-centric lighting, non-energy benefits of lighting and its smart controls. Our present chair, Mark Moody of Legrand, has left the company, and we just arranged this morning for Jeff Thomas of Snap One to be the chair and is currently seeking a co-author. So thank you for stepping up, Jeff. The next paper, Connected Home Cybersecurity Regulations. The chair of this committee is John Devlin from PAID Strategies. He's the chair and the author of the paper. It's in the draft stage, and we'll let you know when we have further updates. Next, we have part 2 of the evolution of integrated Li-Fi technology into smart lighting and control systems for the intelligent building and connected home. Li-Fi is like Wi-Fi without using RF. It uses modulated light signals. The modulation is not visible to the human eye, so it simply looks like there is a light on in the room, and that devices with the appropriate receivers can decode the signal embedded in the light and pick up the signal. The advantage is that where you cannot see the light, you cannot receive the signal. So for an office with a closed door, the signal stays local and is private. This is the second in a series of 3 papers. The lead author is Professor J.B. Groves from Morton County Junior College. I'm on that committee. We had a working group meeting, and we're open to more volunteers for this project. So that wraps up our summary of white papers in progress. Remember, all these white papers are available at caba.org/whitepapers. And of course, we're open to proposals for additional white papers. Just let Greg know, and we'll set up a committee. And while I'm on the phone, Greg, if I might take a moment to talk about the CABA Information Council.
Sure, go ahead.
The white papers I just described are new white papers written specifically for the Connected Home Council. And by the way, there's a similar white papers undertaking for the Integrated Buildings Council. But for papers that are already out in the field and are relevant for CABA members, we have a method for collecting and disseminating those papers, namely the CABA Information Council. The CABA Information Council encourages its members to review at least 5 papers per year, and our encouragement is both moral suasion and money. For those of you that volunteer to review papers, you will be paid 25 US real dollars, and you will get $25 credit towards CABA purchases called CABA bucks. That's per paper, $25 and 25 CABA bucks. What we ask you to do is read the paper. Now, the CABA staff, Greg and Marta, review dozens of papers, and as potential candidates for the CABA Information Library, their list is available to CABA members to review. You choose papers that you'd like, and Marta will send it to you, and then you fill out a reviewer's form. It's pretty easy. It's a PDF form with fill-in fields, and you describe the paper in 100 words or so, and you categorize it as to technical or marketing, and whether it applies to homes or buildings, and just tick off a bunch of keywords that apply to help users search the library. We have thousands of papers that have already been reviewed. We do exclude papers that are simply a marketing pitch. It's okay if the paper says, here's the technology, here are the pros and cons, and by the way, my company makes a product in this area, that's okay. What's not okay is the paper starts that I am the only manufacturer and you have to buy from me. That won't fly with CABA. So we have filtered and literally have now more than 1,000 papers in the library for your perusal and your edification. So that, in a nutshell, is the CABA Information Council, and it nicely complements the work of the IBC and the CHC in original white papers. So that's our contribution to CABA members that we think will be useful as you pursue your profession. Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, Ken. Appreciate the update there. So actually, the final topic that we have here is to ask for any new business. Members may want to suggest ideas for future webinars, topics, white paper ideas, research, anything you think that would be relevant to this sort of community of interest in the Connected Home Council.
Hi, this is David Katz. I hope my associate Michael Petgrave is on the call. He has developed a smart air filter, and it's something that will help us as we address COVID or post-COVID, and making our homes in terms of cleaner air. So I may get him to maybe make a presentation on the technology later. Thanks.
Okay.
David, what's the company?
The company is called Clean Air IQ, I think, and he has an Alvey filter. And I actually bought one for my home, and it overcomes the loss of pressure as people started putting in MERV 13s and HEPA filters and things that create more energy to capture COVID things. And then there are issues about bipolar versus UV lights, et cetera. I think that's a very big topic now as it relates to, in addition to commercial buildings, which we're all looking forward to, is how do we improve our homes in this area as well? And maybe it'll talk to Matter. It's Wi-Fi enabled.
Okay, so we'll I guess wait to hear from you or your colleague.
Yeah, he has sent me some test results. I'm hoping he'll join CABA, and he's even putting it in the Prime Minister's office of Canada. So we're looking forward to his results.
Okay, great. Anyone else? Okay. In that case, I will adjourn the meeting and be on the lookout for information about the next CHC meeting, which should be held in September of 2021. Anything you need to add, Greg, at the end?
That's it. Thanks a lot. And thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for sticking around.
Okay, thanks.
Bye.
Bye.